Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to another episode of Wear Many Hats. Hope you're all well today. Please do us all a massive favour here at Wear Many Hats. Please like, follow and share our content. You know, it's really important that the podcast gets out there so that people know that it's there as a resource for them if they're thinking about entering our world. Anyway, we've got a very exciting episode for you today. But I would like to welcome Colin Becker, who is the equity partner at Metrus, and he's going to tell us all about his role and how he ended up in the property world. How you doing, Colin?
I'm all right, thank you. Thank you for having me, first of all.
I
appreciate it. It's good to meet you.
You had a good day?
Been good.
Yeah.
Been good.
What have you been up to?
Just kind of busy running around, calls, emails, some meetings. Had a business development meeting this morning with one of the partners.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we're always looking to grow the business.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, no, busy old day.
Yeah. Do you like this? Do you like the sales piece? Because some people do and some people don't. I love it. Obviously, it's my job. That's what I do. But you know, do you like it?
I like feeling like I'm bettering people's life. You know, the sales part I feel comes naturally to me.
I get that impression.
Very blessed that I feel, you know, that I'm a people's person. I always say people are my passion. Yeah. You know, and if you're passionate about something, it comes quite naturally. Yeah. And therefore, it doesn't feel like a sale to me. It feels like something that's far more natural. A
collaboration.
Yeah. I mean, it's all the cliche. Yeah, but yeah, I like the fact that you're bringing people together from all different. I mean, that's the biggest thing about me in my industry. You know, it's the fact that you can bring people from all different walks of life together, and in terms of what I do, there's always two. You know, there's lawyers on both sides. Yeah. There's surveyors on both sides. Yeah. You know, there's a whole professional team that can be involved in anything.
Yes, of course.
And it's about people. Yeah. You know,
and you're like the referee in the middle.
I consider myself more of a conductor.
A conductor?
Yeah.
I say that as well. You know, I take all the moving parts.
Yeah.
I've got the wood section. I've got the brass.
Yeah. Referees, you've got to go to VR and there's a whole.
VAR. Yeah, you know, they did us in at the weekend as well.
But I like to think of as a conductor, because I think a conductor stands there and lets everyone else get on with it and just. Yeah.
That is literally, I swear down, Colin, an analogy that I use all the time. I really do. Yeah. Hey, look, we're kindred spirits, mate.
Indeed.
Hey, we didn't even talk about it beforehand. Brilliant. Well, listen, thank you very much for joining us, Colin.
Pleasure.
Absolute pleasure to have you here. As I said, I always start with a really easy question. You know, tell us a little bit about your career and how you ended up operating within the property world.
Slightly unusual in today's world.
Yeah.
We were discussing briefly before that term that I'm sure you'll use, but I'm now entering my 29th year in the industry.
Wow,
congratulations. But also, thank you, at the same practice that I started at in September 95.
Yeah, because you're a lifer. I mean, I was saying this to Colin before, you're a lifer, and you don't see a lot of lifers these days, not in the way it used to. No.
You don't. It's quite unusual.
Yeah.
And it was really a bizarre-ish situation whereby, go back to sort of graduating in the summer of 95, it was tough. I think one postgraduate had a job, and I had written and contacted loads and loads of firms about being able to come in and just get my hands dirty and try and open doors. Yeah. None of it happened. I was, back in those days, a part-time LTA qualified tennis coach.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. With a name like Becker.
Yeah.
I played a bit of tennis back in the day.
So were you good?
I was okay.
Did you nearly get picked up?
Yeah. I mean, there was actually a famous article that was written in one of the papers. I was away one summer, enjoying myself. I think it was in Spain. Yeah. With a mate's parents and staying at their villa. Enjoying myself as you do as an adolescent.
Exactly.
Get a phone call from my mum to say, you got to buy I think it was the Daily Express at the time. Yeah. I said, why? She said, you're in it. I was like, what? And Lineker was at Spurs at the time.
Yeah.
And it was that era.
Yeah. And the 90s greatest decade there was.
Yeah, it was a great decade.
Yeah.
It was.
It also all went downhill from 2001 on.
Yeah, correct. The dot-com boom bust, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But, I picked up the paper and there was, Boris's match and there's hope for British tennis. I'd won various tournaments and played in for county tennis, and
Wow.
a guy who had played, ironically, with the same name, Becker.
Yeah.
A guy called Harvey Becker, who played at Junior Wimbledon, sort of picked me up. I'd had no lessons. It was natural talent.
Really?
And sort of said to me, do you fancy giving this a go? And sat down with my parents. But I think, my focus at that age wasn't necessarily on spending 6-7 hours on a tennis court.
Yeah. It's actually very expensive as well, isn't it?
It is. At that time, it wasn't as accessible as it is today, and the infrastructure wasn't in place. But,
yeah.
But anyway, I was coaching.
Yeah.
And I was still living at home with my parents. I was knocking on doors to try and get a job.
Yeah.
And eventually, through someone I knew who I was coaching,
yeah.
they said, give these guys a call. They're looking for someone to help out till Christmas. I tried to get hold of the guy who I'd been given as a contact for a while. We eventually met up. He was very casual. He said, look, seem a great guy. Come in. Notice, we're not looking to take someone on. There's zero pay. There's zero opportunity here.
Yeah.
But you seem like a good kid if you want to come and come in at your pleasure.
Yeah.
And I was sort of first in, last out.
Yeah.
Christmas came. They were like, we really like you.
Yeah.
You're a great guy, but we can't afford to pay you. I was like, it's irrelevant. I just took the view. I was coaching, living at home.
Yeah.
But the guy who was, you call it a graduate surveyor today, in those days it was a junior.
Yeah.
Which is probably a derogatory term today.
It probably is, yeah, but that's what it was.
He was a graduate at the time, left in the May 96. I think they offered me £9,000. I negotiated saying I wanted 12. We settled at 11. And hopefully my probation period after 29 years is over. And
it looks like you've done all right, Colin.
Yeah,
to be fair.
yeah. No, I was within a short while made salaried partner, and then a few years later became an equity partner in the practice.
Also, very quickly then, really. To be fair.
Yeah. It's funny. I always looked at the opportunity of going to a more a larger, speech marks, more globally recognised name, but I stayed true to people and my passion, and I felt that I wanted to be surrounded by people that I would be recognised by.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be client facing as quickly as possible, and not necessarily go through the rotational system that we have nowadays for graduates going through their APC.
Yeah.
I was more focused on effectively climbing that ladder to be able to go out there and progress my career.
Yeah. So what obviously, it seems to me like you transition very quickly from a junior, as you call it back then, into, as you said, salary partner, and then what skills and attributes do you think gave you the ability to achieve those things at a very young age? And what advice, and two-part question, what advice would you give to a young person that was looking to do a similar thing that you did in that time? If you can do that now, because
there are all
obviously
the cliches: grit, determination, hard work, entrepreneurial spirit, etc., etc. Everything I do, Mark, comes back to centered around being fully focused on relationships.
Yeah,
and I've always felt so passionate about telling clients, colleagues, as I saw things, not what they necessarily wanted to hear, but as I genuinely I was and still am as comfortable as advising a client not to transact on a deal as I am to do a deal.
Yeah.
Because it's not about the fee, it's about the people. The bricks and mortar are a byproduct of what I do. Yeah, it's about the people.
And the trust.
And absolutely. Yeah. And I always say that if teachers taught people rather than pupils, when doctors treat people rather than patients, you will get better results.
I completely agree.
Right. So the bricks and mortar and the deals are a byproduct of what I do. It's about my relationship with the people.
Yeah.
And as I said, I've had that gift. I was very, very popular when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I had great social circles, great circles of friends. And I had, and I'm going to put a shout out to my parents here.
No, go on.
Who taught me the value of human relationships. And I think in today's world, and I'm not going to bemoan the socials and social media, but we as a generation cannot lose the value of human-centric relationships. It is so fundamentally important to what we do.
There's a real danger that we might, though, Colin.
100%.
There is a real danger.
There is, and that's why I am so passionate. And I say, if you split me open, I'd like to think the words that, people and my passion would come pouring out of me, because I do think that, if I'm slightly going off people, but if our grandparents went back to when they were our age and they could grasp what the internet was, and they grasped relationships being started and ended, and they'd look at you in horror and say, what do you mean? You're telling me, Mark, that, your relationship with Mandy's not working out. You're not going to have the guts to sit down with her over a glass of wine or whatever it may be and say, look, I think you're a great person, but Mandy, this relationship isn't working. Yeah. That value of relationships. And this goes back to the question that you asked. I feel that I've been able to progress at every stage, both on a personal level and in my professional life, because I've understood the values of those relationships, Mark.
Yes.
Never taken them for granted.
I completely agree.
And it's the center of everything I believe in.
Yeah. Okay. Very interesting. So, how did you did you have to do anything? And I know you said you had natural talent. But there must have been ways in which you had to either develop yourself, or situations that you came across whereby that was a big lesson for you in terms of, could you give me an example of something that you learned?
I look at every day as a lesson, Mark. I really do. I the guys that work around me, we've got some tremendous people that we work with. And I think this leads me on to, there's sort of management styles. Yeah. And I've always been a believer in, as someone that puts their hand up and says, I'll take ownership of this. Yeah. And you take control.
That's called leadership.
Okay. Yeah. Leadership is about, if there's one word, or maybe two, it's vulnerability and flexibility.
Yes.
I think if people see you're vulnerable and people see that you're flexible, it's not one hand for, great leaders, look at Ferguson. Yes. I'm a sportsman, I love. Yeah. And any great managers or leaders of teams, I believe, will treat people, how you treat Roy Keane's very different to how you treat Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And you've got to show that you're adaptable, you're flexible, but you're also vulnerable. You put your hands up and you say, this isn't my show. This isn't my way or the highway. Yeah. Right. Let's sit down. Let's throw everything on the table and work out a solution. Anyone can bring problems. We can all sit here and ring off 20 problems that we've occurred during a day.
Yes.
I always say there are certain pillars I live with by my life. And one of them is, it's not what happens to us in life, it's how we deal with it.
Yep.
And therefore I use on a daily basis an opportunity to really sit down and go, right, what have I learned today? How can I grow? And I think, again, without sounding, throwing another cliche out there, Mark, but
we love a cliche.
Life is the greatest education,
Yeah.
We'll maybe have a podcast another day about the education system, which I think is slightly draconian. There's always a place for the classics in learning history and, languages. But when are we going to start? Possibly primary is not the right setting, but secondary school, when are we going to teach kids about what's a savings account, what's a bank account, what's a mortgage, how do you, life skills? Yes. Why is life skills not out there in today's society as an intrinsic part of our education system? It has to be.
I can tell you why. Because I've had this conversation and me and you, I'm saying we are two people of the same skin. The reason our education system doesn't work is because it's set around Victorian principles and developing people to go into factories. That's what it is.
But that's what I said to you, it's draconian. Yeah. Now, when are we going to sit down and go, right, David's 11, 12 years old. David is not what we would call an academic. He doesn't sit there and regurgitate information. Yeah. And therefore, we can't prune David to go to university or secondary education. David is a creative. Yeah. How do we nurture that spirit? How do we, and it goes back to what I said, teacher that teach people and not pupils will get better results. Yeah. And therefore, this is what it goes back, and everything links back to that human-centric relationship about you can't, it's not the teachers, it's the system.
No, I agree.
It's the system. And look, bringing it back to what we do and going back to your question, I'm passionate about someone coming to work with us, I feel grateful and blessed that they've chosen our practice to come and, roll their sleeves up and say, I'm going to give myself to you as a firm. How can we better that person? How can we make sure that they walk out of here, or maybe not? Maybe they'll be there longer than I have, who knows? But how can they leave here, whenever that time may be, a better person? Yeah. And that encompasses them in their professional life and their personal life.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, do you know something? Einstein said something very, very interesting many, many years ago. And I recite this to my daughter all the time, because my daughter, she doesn't do well in school. She doesn't fit that structure. Do you know what I mean? So I say it to my daughter all the time, because she gets very upset about it, because she feels like she's failing and all those things. But, Einstein said, if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, that fish will never achieve anything, and that's so true. We've all got talent. It's about finding out what that talent is. And that talent isn't necessarily sitting in a classroom doing algebra or history or geography or anything along those lines. So I say to my daughter all the time, because I think I'm very much like you. I think that developing your personality and your people skills will aid you far greater in life than knowing how to spell supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. That's very flippant.
An old trick I used to do, less so these days, but prior, when I interview people, I would sit there and say, Mark, I'm really sorry, I haven't read your CV, tell me about yourself.
Yeah, I like that.
And Mark would then proceed to say that he was educated at this school, had so many qualifications. And I said, look, Mark, I get that. Tell me about yourself.
Yeah.
And I hate to say it, but a significant number of people would just freeze at that point.
Yeah.
And I think, I say to anyone, you can look, my world is the property world, right? Yeah. You can go in there, you can learn about retailing, you can learn. Ultimately, people want to do business with people. I genuinely believe that. I
completely agree.
And I think if you can't buy likability, you can't buy it.
Yeah.
Right? You can't buy the ability to walk in a room, spend an hour with someone or half an hour with someone, or go play a golf day, and you meet someone wherever it may be in that environment, and then walk away and say, I want his number.
Yeah.
I like that guy.
Yeah.
As I said, the bricks and mortar are a byproduct. Yeah. I like that guy.
Yeah.
I want to be pally with that guy.
I want to work with that guy.
I want to work with that guy.
Yeah. Very similar. It's entirely my way. To be fair, Colin.
Yeah.
That's my thing. I'm likable. People enjoy dealing with me.
And so, I think everything is about that kind of mentality.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So what what advice would you give to a young person, for example, that was looking to enter into the property sphere from a learning and development perspective? Is there anything that you think that they could do, whether it's roles, courses, or anything that you would say would be ideal for them?
So again, credit where credit's due. I remember my father during the summers when I was a teenager, and you break up and you have whatever it is, 8-9 weeks holiday and whatnot.
God, I remember those days. That would have been good. I could do that now.
When summers were summers and winters were winters.
Yeah. Instead of it all of like a mishmash milkshake like it is now. Yeah.
But I remember, and it brings me to a thought process about, again, one word that I use in my life, balance. Right? You always get, think about if balance was the centric part of human beings, I think our minds would work very differently. And I use that word balance in the sense that, you get 8 weeks of a summer holiday. If you spend 8 weeks sitting on your backside and going on holiday and being out there and on a jolly, great. But there's only one thing you're going to learn. If you sit down and say, what am I sort of interested in? Let me go about it. And how am I going to find out about, I'm getting into my stage where I'm maybe leaving school, leaving secondary education, and what am I going to do with my life? Go out there and explore. It's a big world. And today the world is far more accessible, and the information available is unbelievable.
Crazy.
So I would say that my advice would be, if there is an interest, find out what. I remember, as I said, going back to what I was saying, my dad turned around to me and he said, look, enjoy yourself in the summer, but if you're interested in being in the property world, go out there and get some work experience. And I remember I did a bit of retailing, I did a bit of industrial, I went and worked at an investment agency.
Yeah.
And I spent my summers, not 6 out of 8 weeks, but 2 out of 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And I was able, within a short period of time over a number of years, to say, well, I like that about that. I didn't like that about this, or I didn't like about that. And, my advice to people looking to enter into the property world is go out there and live it. Find out, go and speak to people, pick up the phone to as many people you know, talk to them, ask them what's good and bad about what they do. See if you can get work experience and work placements. You know, the schools, the colleges, the universities are brilliant now.
Yeah.
Again, a whole different topic, but I think the days of people kind of ticking the success box saying, I got X number of qualifications and look at me, I've got a degree. You know, people are going out there getting apprenticeships now, you know, whether it be in law, property, and people see the value of as I said before, there is no better education than life itself. Yeah. You know, you want to learn about love, you can read about it, read the most amazing poetry, romantic film. Till your heart's broken or you fall in love, you're not going to know what it's about.
Yeah. And well, one's quite good, the other one not so much.
Correct.
To be fair.
But you've got to, so you know, I use every day as a learning curve, and my advice to people would be go out there and try and get some real life experience.
Yeah, actually go out there, do it, knock on doors, try and speak to the people you need to speak to.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I completely agree. You know, I think as well, you know, I mean, I've had a 20-year career. Nobody's ever said to me, can you show me this certificate from your education? Ever. You know, and because I just don't think that they value it.
Yeah.
At a certain point, it becomes irrelevant.
Sure.
Doesn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it becomes about experience. It becomes about how can you add value? How can you integrate into our team? How can you be, you know, part of us, part of what we're trying to achieve? Because whenever I interview, that's what I'm looking for. I'm always looking can I work with this person? Do I trust this person? Do I think this person can add value?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then the skills and attributes, I'd want to see some of them that were relevant, but other things, if there's the willing's there, you can bring that on.
One other thing that's just wrong is patience, I think, as well, Mark. You know, we live in a world today where everything is, you know, the largest cab company in the world don't own a taxi. The largest hotel, you know, Airbnb. Everything is
crazy,
instantaneous. And now we've lost, you know, that ability to just say, okay, I'm going to take a step back and be patient. And that's what, you know, relationships, trust, as I said, trust and loyalty are probably one of the
most important things.
Absolutely. But how do you build that? It doesn't happen overnight.
No, it's long time.
And it takes time. And therefore, you have to be prepared to say to yourself, I'm happy to be patient with this relationship. I trust in myself that when Mark meets me, I hope to have made a humble enough impression that he goes away and says, you know, he's okay. You know, and you build upon that. Yeah. You build upon that trust. So patience is important.
Yeah.
You know, that's another strong message that I would definitely put out there to people looking to enter the industry. Have patience. And again, there's so many service lines in our bit, you know, whether you take a professional route in terms of RICS APC, and again, there's several strands of which you can take in terms of what disciplines you decide to head towards. But just be patient, you know, because if you grasp the value of relationships, I genuinely believe you will be better at what you do. Yeah.
No, I agree. I agree completely. Okay. So you've had a 30-year career. Well, nearly 30 years. Nearly 30 years. Let's talk a little bit about ESG. Obviously, it's a relatively new phenomenon, I would say, in the industry. It's been floating around in different, whether it's DEI or CSR, or, you know, it's just kind of all been brought into one. What's your view on it, and how do you think it will continue to develop and impact business, and particularly the property world?
The short answer, Mark, and those that know me well will know that I'm not often known for giving short answers, but the short answer is anything that underpins and enhances the value of assets in terms of bricks and mortar, with an ESG, you know, credential in terms of BREEAM ratings and all the markers that are out there today, and you know, is only good for our industry. Yeah, I think for far too long, the industry has been slightly lazy, for the want of a better word.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I do. I think looking at the market at the moment, and you know, whilst, you know, central London offices is the backbone of our expertise. Yeah, you know, for many years, you know, landlords that refurbish buildings with poor materials, very little detail in terms of design. It was just a case of, you know what, we'll make it look aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah.
Those days ago, I always felt, when is the commercial property world going to wake up? You know, you look how the leisure business and hotels in particular has imploded over the last 10 years. And I've always felt that the commercial property sector lagged behind. And now the gap between what you expect when you walk into an office building has improved dramatically. The end of journey facilities, landlords, redefining, remodeling buildings, a terminology that's often used in our world. But it only underpins the value of the assets. Yeah. It only improves the income, the return that an investor is going to get from those assets. And I just feel that ESG is something that we've kind of known about, but haven't given it the importance
that it deserves.
And I think it's fundamental to what we do now. You know, those buildings that lack those credentials will just get left behind.
Yeah, of course, yeah. But you will always have those buildings that will lack those credentials where that investment isn't there. Correct. So it's going to be like you're going to have like a two-tier system.
Correct.
If that makes sense. You'll have that section and then you'll have the other ones. And it's going to create a bigger divide across the sector, I think. I don't know if you agree.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, look, 10 years ago plus, it was very easy to define the office market. There was Cat A, Cat B, and second hand, which might have come under the Cat B market. And then there was the serviced offices, and then there was the co-working. Yeah. Okay. There are now several offshoots in each of those sides. Okay, you've got the traditional Cat A plus, Cat B plus, second-hand space. You've got co-working. You've got fitted, managed, flexi. Yeah. All the same. Yeah. You know, in the sense that it's all about the differentiation. Sorry, when I say all the same, it's all the same in the sense that fundamentally they're office spaces. Yeah. But what's defining them and the differentiates are the ESG credentials.
The experience.
It's the experience, the occupier experience.
Yeah. And COVID's been a big driver of that though, hasn't it?
Yeah, look.
Because I've been saying this for years. I was saying it before COVID, you know, this is the route you need to go down. This is what we should be doing. But like, and suddenly it's like, blah. And I'm kind of like, well, I was saying that 10 years ago.
Yeah. Look, working for home is a no-go for me. You need to be, going back to everything I've said to you today, you've got to be around people. You can't bump. You've got to be in the office. Yeah. Okay. And, I'm incredibly encouraged by global, organizations out
Amazon,
there.
for example,
are holding, not holding their hands up, but they are coming out very clearly and saying, we want our workforce to be in the office. And I think there are so many reasons why. It's another discussion, another day, but it has made building owners sit up and say, right, how do we get tenants in our building? Because they're going to need to encourage their workforce into the building. Yeah. And it links to something that, again, I've always felt passionate about, and again, links back to that human-centric those human-centric relationships. I've always felt, and I've always said this to my clients, if you're smart, your buildings will be communities. Yes. They won't be multi-let buildings where the fourth floor tenant's got no idea what the second floor tenant's doing. Yeah. People want to come, you want to feel,
it's about linking.
Great Britain was built on communities, strong communities. Yeah. Right? Where and I felt that buildings needed to be communities. Yeah. Offer external services to occupiers in terms of end of journey, bike showers, breakout areas, communal kitchens, places where people could come,
dry cleaning,
sit down, say, hello, Mark. I'm Colin. Yeah. How you doing, mate? What are you up to? What do you do?
Cup of coffee.
Bit
of cake. Yeah.
And
I agree.
Yeah. And therefore, I'm really pleased to see the way that buildings now operate and are far more community based. Yeah. I think landlords that sit there with blinkers on and look at it, and it's all about, about the driving, getting their floors occupied without any thought to design and who's going to occupy the space and
Just get the bodies in. Get the bodies in. It's a different attitude, isn't it? It's a different way of thinking.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, focusing on the S, I know that you're obviously a board business advisor for Spread a Smile.
I'm indeed.
Which we chatted about very briefly.
We did.
Prior to the podcast. Well, tell us a little bit about that, because obviously we delved into it a little bit, but that's something that I think is a fantastic thing to be involved in.
Yeah, I'm very, very fortunate to be on the business advisory board of Spread a Smile, who are a phenomenal charity that try and enrich the lives of families going through their darkest hours and days and months and years, and going to hospitals with, be it entertainers, therapy dogs, magicians, poets, all sorts that try and put a smile on, be it a child, a mother, a father, a family member, a spouse who are dealing with a seriously or terminally ill child. And it's a charity that I, as I say, feel very blessed to be a part of. Have worked with for several years now.
Right.
And just basically try and create relationships whereby we can partner with people that can help. There's a budget that needs to be met every year to maintain. We're trying to reach more hospital beds. That's the ultimate goal.
Right.
The charity, and I'm not best placed, the people that run the charity that do the most insane work are best placed, but they are now looking at doing research into how what they do actually can help the child's mental health.
Right.
Like I was saying to you about, doctors treating people than patient. Anyone can administer drugs.
Patch Adams.
Yeah.
Have you seen that film?
100%
Yeah,
love
yeah,
it.
yeah. Very much so. Yeah. It's very, very true. So what, are they a national charity, or do they operate in a specific area, or?
From what I understand, that Great Ormond Street is obviously
the main element.
An intrinsic hub.
Yeah.
But they're looking at creating partnerships all over the country and being able to. But that can only happen if they've got the ability. They pay the entertainers because they want quality.
Yeah.
And these people are. I've been at events. They are amazing. Yeah, amazing people.
Oh, really?
And Mark, you reach a grand old age where I think there was a very wise man who once told me that perceived greatness is about taking.
Right. Yeah.
So when you always say, be careful who your idols are or your heroes are.
Yeah, be careful. Never meet your heroes.
Right. Yeah. These footballers, they kiss the badge, but we know it's a very cynical world, right? Money talks.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So perceived greatness is about taking, whereas true greatness is about giving.
Yeah, I like that. Very good.
I've always enjoyed giving back. Giving back. There's no money in the world for me that fills my heart like giving back to people and feeling that you're bettering people's lives.
Yeah, helping.
100%.
We should do that more.
Yeah.
As a
absolutely,
as a race, as a group of human beings, we should do that.
Absolutely, we have to.
Well, I say this all the time. If the will was there, we could solve homelessness overnight.
100%.
Overnight, it could be done. There's no will to do it.
100%.
That's the issue, because financially we could do it like that.
Yeah.
We could do lots of things overnight if the will was there to do it, but we choose not. Why we choose not to, I have no idea. But for some reason, all of the things that you would expect, like a Western nation, a civilized democracy, that we would just go, that's wrong, we'll fix it. But for whatever reason, it doesn't. And I don't understand it at all.
Yeah, look, the easy answer is people may say, well, how am I going to change? But if everyone thought like that, you'd never change it. Change nothing changes, okay?
Yeah.
And that's where, again, everyone I meet of a generation 2 or 3 younger than me, I say to them, be who you want to be, not who the world wants you to be.
Yeah.
Think small things will happen. Think big big things can happen.
Agreed.
And going back and touching upon what we were talking about before briefly, Mark, about, the imploding social media, and how that's imploded over the last 10, 15 years. We're almost obsessed with influence.
Yeah.
An influencer to me 20 years ago was very different to someone who promotes soft drinks and
Yeah. I mean, we're probably classed as influence. The show is probably classed as an influence across the industry, which is quite, that got said to us several weeks ago, actually. And that was quite interesting because we never really perceived ourselves as that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But because of the people that come on the show and the people that we speak to, I guess that we are, because we're providing a platform for them to come and give their, experiences and things like that. So, but it was quite unusual to be called in that term, because my kids say it all the time. Oh, what's this influencer? I'm like, I don't know who half of they are. And then I'll turn around and say, well, your dad's an influencer, and they'll just laugh at me.
But Mark, if you invest of yourself in others, you'll be amazed. If you empower people, it is amazing. Most people, again, one of my famous celebrate the wins.
Yeah.
We're so quick to look at all the negatives.
The failures,
the failures. If you sat there and said, right, look at I've woken up today. There are hundreds of thousands, if not millions around the world that aren't going to even do that, right?
Yeah.
Celebrate the wins. It's a mindset. If you can flick a switch in people's mindset and change the way that they think, you can change lives.
Yeah.
And you can then start, to change generational thought process. And as I said, walk up in the street today and say to someone who looks sad, in speech marks, "You okay?" They'll like, "Yeah, I'm fine," or they'll walk away. They'll ignore,
Or smile at someone that looks like they're having a bad day. So that can be a smile is contagious.
100%. Yeah. And I know there's so much content out there and other podcasts.
You do have to be careful who you smile at these days, Colin, because you can get in trouble.
You can. Yeah, but we've got to care about human beings. We've got to really care about our fellow humans, and those relationships are just fundamental in terms of, everything that we do, personal growth, professional growth, everything.
Yeah. Okay, well, listen, I'd be very interested to get your thoughts on AI, artificial intelligence. Couple of points, how you think it'll affect the industry. Have you seen the Optimuses from Elon Musk? Yeah, you've seen them?
Yes.
Yeah, so are we slowly moving towards Terminator 2 Judgment Day?
Mark, I'm worried.
Go on. No, God, no. Don't scare me.
I'm worried because at what point do we say enough? At what point do we go, this is becoming dangerous? The experience, the value in the experience. Okay, again, I'm going to sound, but when I needed to learn something, I had to go to a library or find a book or experience it to understand it. A bit like love.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. This day and age, everything is available at your fingertips, including AI, which makes information available. We talked about everything is accessible at a click or a touch.
Yeah.
Right. We talked about, if you want food, if you and I wanted a meal or a drink when we were in our teens, we had to get up off our backside
and go get it.
Go and get it.
Yeah.
Right? You don't need to do that now.
No. Everything's
right.
convenient.
But what did that teach us? That taught us how to deal with, that might have been at 8 o'clock at night when our parents didn't want us to go out, and it taught us how to deal with fear or a little bit of anxiety, the value in the experience. So what's, don't get me wrong, there are, like anything in life, there are incredible advantages of AI. People learning about things that you would never, ever know. And the advances in the medical world are incredible.
Yeah.
Okay. But I think, like anything, it's how do you police it? How do you control it? At what point do you go, hang on a second, people are talking about, 10 years from now, we don't, that role is going to be redundant because AI takes over. Where is that good?
I agree with you. I mean, if you had a look at those Those I mean, they were serving drinks and things like that. How many jobs would that be across the world? Like, if you look at something like that, and let's be frank here, Musk said that they would cost $30,000. Yeah. So let's say £15,000.
Yeah.
You employ somebody for a year to work full time behind a bar. In terms of your cost and your burden, it's going to cost you minimum 35, maybe 40K, something along those lines. Why wouldn't you go out and buy one of them? Because you know it's going to last for 5 years. You save X amount of pounds, because that's what it'll boil down to. Because unfortunately, we are human beings and we're greedy. We are, and it becomes about P&L rather than people. And what we're going to find, what do we do with all these people that get displaced by this technology? Because they will be displaced. Because if you've got a robot that's got arms, legs, they'll be able to drive. Goodbye, wagon drivers. They'll probably be far better and far safer. So how do you deal with those displaced people? It is pretty worrying.
If you look at today's world, and again, we're going off piece here, but look at issues with mental health, which I think often shadowed with mental illness. And again, going back to what I was talking about, the mind, mental health is like physical health. You might have had a period in your life, Mark, where you thought, need to lose a couple of pounds.
I'm doing that right now, mate.
That's physical health.
You calling me
right?
fat, Colin?
I'm not.
You should have seen me 9 months ago, mate.
You're a very no, but
Thanks for not finishing.
Not
that
at
statement.
all.
Thanks for not finishing that statement. I appreciate it.
But my point is, what's the difference between physical health, mental? Mental health. There are. Anxiety. We're all going to be anxious at some stage.
Yeah, we all experience it.
But if you learn to have a relationship with anxiety or depression, you lose someone close to you. Yeah. Right? Doctor phones you up and says, Colin, Mark, can you come in? I need to talk to you about your blood test result. I would argue being anxious is a normal reaction. Yeah. If you learn to have a relationship with that emotion, okay, we often try and focus on the emotion. Yeah. Rather than the reaction. Yeah, the reflection, I mean. Okay. If you can, always going to be events in life, whatever it might be. In my world, there are events. It could be an email, a phone call, a meeting, whatever it might be, which evokes a reaction. Yeah,
an emotional response to whatever you found. Yeah,
95% of that time, that emotional response isn't going to be helpful. Another one of my mantras, anger is the wind that blows out the candle of logic. Yeah. Think about it after. But I try and use that in everything in my life, because how many times anger is the wind that blows out the candle of logic. Right. How many times have you made irrational decisions in your personal life or your professional life where you thought, my God, what was I thinking?
Yeah, far more when I was younger.
Correct. So there's always events in life. There's always going to be a reaction. If you can take out the reaction and move to the reflection, you're in what I would argue a more logical thought process. Yeah. I agree. Okay. And that, again, is relative to what I do. I always say to my son, bring emotion into anything that we do. On the transactional side in real estate, you're not thinking clearly. You're not seeing things. So I think, again, it's the value in the experience, and you can only be a better whatever you do through the experience. So in my world and in the real estate world, it's technology is advanced incredibly. Being able to sit anywhere in the world and look at a building through
VR, virtual reality,
is insane.
Well, there's people walking around with VR
Mark, I used to go around measuring buildings with tapes, and if the tape wasn't big enough, you had to go.
Did you have one of those wheel things back in the day?
Mark, I started in 95. There was no. I think the internet was around, but someone, the secretary as it was back in the day had a word processor. Yeah. If everything was done by fax, going back to, can you imagine today walking around a building with a client and saying, we're interested in the building, and 2 days later or a day later, you'll get a response. I mean, unheard of. Everything now is instantaneous, going back to what we were saying. So I was brought up in a generation where you had to be patient. If, there's a lot of brokers out there doing whatever they're selling. Right? You asked me about I don't believe brokers. I believe the advisory side is fundamental. be an advisor, a broker. You're just facilitating
of course,
two parties.
Yeah.
If you're an advisor, you've got experience, knowledge, all the set skills that we've talked about today,
of course,
and you can genuinely advise.
Yeah. So going back to technology,
Yes,
AI. So
AI.
So where do you in 5 years? Where do you think we are with AI in the industry? Do you think we're in a good place or a bad place, or where do you see it going?
I like to think we're in a good place.
Yeah.
In a place that there is, and again, one of the reasons I've always loved London is I think we're a global leader in a lot of what we do. And I'd like to think in our industry, in the property world, AI in 5 years from now is in an advanced place that will benefit our industry, but not have a detrimental impact on those human-centric relationships that I've harped on and banged on about today. If it is governed and controlled, if you can,
I don't see how you can.
Tech's not my world.
Once you get, super machine intelligence, it's
that's my concern.
Yeah. I mean, I think in 5 years, and I do believe this, I truly believe this, and the only reason I believe this is because I believe technology advances along certain scales. So if you look at how quickly the Internet of Things advanced, 20 years really, 1995 to 2015. From 2015 on, we had, word processors in our hands. There's more technology than that, and the technology that took man to the moon, which is crazy. And then I think once you throw AI into the mix, so I think you can accelerate that by 15, 20 times in terms of the time scale associated with it. So I think in 5 years, we'll see a massive change in our society because of AI. And I think we will see robots going down the tube. I think we'll see them delivering things, and I think we'll see them doing other jobs. Because as soon as you have the ability to create a robot that can stand up, walk, do the things in a fluid motion, then that's when things start. Because the programming and the learning behind it and the ability to have a conversation and understand what someone asks you to do, that will fly now. AI came out a year and a bit ago. Yeah. It's already advanced ridiculously quickly. So I think, and I'm calling this, I'm 44. So by the time I'm 49, I think that's what we'll see, and it'll be crazy.
One of the things that interests me, you mentioned a 5-year period, and I was chatting to someone recently. One of the most interesting things that I guess what's the word I'm looking for? One of the things I'm most interested in seeing what happens in the next 5 years within the property industry is blockchain technology.
Right.
I spoke to someone who loosely explained it to me. Just in terms of how blockchain will work in terms of helping the transactional side of property.
Okay.
I don't profess to understand it, but what he explained to me in terms of how it will impact our industry, in terms of streamlining information. I won't say more on that because it's a separate conversation for a separate time. But how blockchain will help streamline information within the property industry and the impact that will have on our industry over the next 5 years, I'm very eager to see the impacts of how.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very exciting 5 years.
Yeah.
Probably the most exciting 5 years that you will have experienced in your career, I would say.
Yeah.
And probably the most exciting 5 years I will have experienced in my career, just because of the technology. And hopefully it doesn't go all, and everything's absolutely fantastic. And it integrates into our lifestyles and makes everybody's life better, because that fundamentally is what it's about.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
I think I use the word balance, okay? Yeah. Buildings are more beautiful. People are striving to be more beautiful. The knowledge of the world in terms of medication, nutrition, we talked about everything is imploding. Yeah. But yet, back to basics, people's mental health seems to be deteriorating at an alarming rate.
I think that's social
obesity.
Media.
Why is good food so expensive, but go and buy
crap. Yeah.
It's very easily available and very cost effective.
Yeah.
When's the scales going to balance in terms of human beings going, listen, we've made amazing advances in these areas, but let's look intrinsically in the mirror at ourselves.
Yeah.
And now let's focus on us.
Yeah. I think we all have to do that.
Yeah, 100%.
To be fair. So it's really interesting. All right, well, listen, this brings me to my last question. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about you. What do you like to get up to outside of work and outside of, the charities that you support and things like that? What are you?
So I've got a dog.
What type?
He's a toy golden doodle.
Really?
Called Benji.
Yeah, I've got a silver Labrador called Willow.
A lab.
Yeah, oh God, nightmare.
So my partner's got a lab.
Really?
And called Buddy. So
really?
Benji and Buddy.
Oh, that's good.
And they're best mates.
Yeah.
They enjoy spending time together.
Oh, that's good.
So I enjoy, the simple answer is I genuinely love being surrounded by family, friends. I love my sport and I love travelling. Yeah. I love music.
Do you like football?
Love football.
Who's your team?
Chelsea.
Oh, really? We've got you this weekend.
You're okay.
Yeah. I see it just took there. You're an United fan. Yeah. By the way, you should have seen the disgust in his face when he realised.
Well, growing up in the 80s and, I kind of was very loyal to my father, who's been a lifelong Chelsea fan. He turns 80 next month.
Oh, well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
To your
And he, as a young man, used to go and watch the youth team in the morning and the first team in the afternoon. He was a diehard. Yeah. And I've always stuck with my dad and followed Chelsea through thick and thin. So
same reason I'm a United fan, mate.
There you go.
My dad
last 20 years have been good.
Yeah.
But look, I love sport, and again, I think the disciplines it teaches, the team,
well, I think if we stop City cheating, then the league will be far better for it. Once they've been relegated for those 115 charges.
Football is cyclical like anything in life. So your time will come
back.
No,
hey, listen, I was around in the 90s, mate. I was there in 99, It doesn't matter that City did it. We did it first.
Mark Robbins' was it his goal in the FA Cup?
In the FA Cup that saved Ferguson.
Yeah.
Which was pretty good. Look, I watch United now and I'm just like, oh God.
Yeah.
I just don't understand how they play. I'm like, this is not a style of play. Like, what are you doing? How are you getting this wrong? How is it so bad? You've got a Chelsea. You're one of those teams, Chelsea. Like, you've basically bought every bloody player in the world. How you guys have got around FFP? I have no idea.
It's a largish squad.
Yeah. Very, very big squad. Very, very big squad. So,
but listen, football clubs are. You talk about with United. It's a culture. It's an identity. And again, going back to everything we talked about today, that culture is embedded by people.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And successful organisations have very deep, ingrained cultures.
Yeah.
People understand what they're doing, why they're doing it.
I agree.
So at work, I enjoy my sports. I love traveling.
Yeah.
I'd say to people, again, advice to young people, if you're 20 years old and you haven't got a clue what you like or where you want to be, and doesn't matter, go out there. It's when you know what's going on in your head and where you want to be, you'll work yourself out. It's a phenomenal world out there.
Yeah.
There are phenomenal people in the world out there. Go out, meet them.
Yeah.
Go discover.
Yeah.
Go on an adventure. You're 23 years old. You don't know. It doesn't matter.
No.
Right?
Just don't get killed.
Correct.
Right? Yeah, be careful.
Be safe.
Yeah, be safe.
Yeah.
Bit of risk.
Be
all right,
safe.
Colin, well, that brings us to the end of the show. How did you find it?
I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed it. It's been a pleasure to meet you, Mark.
Yeah, pleasure to meet you as well.
I feel we could sit here all night.
I think we could do, actually, mate. That's why I'm
feeling like there might be an episode,
I think there definitely is, mate. There's definitely another episode there that we need to have. But listen,
if your following suddenly jumps through the roof, and I would, encourage it, then who knows?
Let's put that out there in the universe, Colin.
Correct.
You know what I mean? And see how we get on.
If we're in demand, we'll come back.
We will. You never know. We could be influencers, mate.
Yeah.
Influence things together. Yeah. That's always good.
But the loveliest, and I thank you for your time and for inviting me.
That's been
and you know what? It's to your credit, you know, sometimes you walk in a room, you spend however long we've spent chatting, and it feels like I've known you for years. So the biggest compliment I could pay is it really has been a pleasure. And
see, I'm a talented, likable person as well, Colin.
You
So.
are.
Two peas in a pod, mate. Well, listen, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
You too.
And everybody out there, really interesting episode. I think, you know, Colin brought some insights we haven't heard before. Very much, you know, I'm sure Colin wouldn't mind if people reach out to him on LinkedIn if they have any questions or anything like that. But that's the end of another show, guys. As ever, can't be good, be bad. Bye-bye.